these quick. Okay, so I'm going to talk about tampons. I'm going to talk about this. It's only because every time I listen to Spotify, there's this really, really annoying ad that keep talking about tampons, and I've seen a bunch of tampons and pad ads before, and it's just things like build up and bother me. Okay, so let's start off with the tampon ad that I always hear. The only thing that really annoys me, and I'm like, always it's wrong, is that they keep saying in the tampon ad, they're like, if you put the tampon in and it hurts, then you didn't put it in deep enough. And I'm like, no. That's not how that works, buddy. No, if you put it in and it hurts, you put the wrong size in. This means you don't have as heavy a period. There are different sizes. There's super. Apparently there's super, or like extra super, whatever. The size above the super. I've never had that. Then there's regular. Everyone's used to regular. Everyone has regular. And then there's small, so it's called light. And you always start out with the light. You always figure out the small. And then if you bleed more heavily and the light doesn't do anything, and you have a pad just in case, put the pad down and everything, put it up with the underwear. You put it down just in case that, in case the tampon falls out, which only happens because it fills up with blood. It gets completely full and you bleed too much. So you bleed more and the tampon can't keep up with your bleeding. So you need to take it out. So, and if you put a regular in, it's gonna hurt. No matter what, you didn't put it in deep enough, you push it in deeper, it's still gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt a lot if you're not bleeding enough. If you're not bleeding enough, so in that case, you're not bleeding enough. You're not losing enough blood to fill up and for it to slide in and not hurt while it's inside you for the regular. And I always did super, and only rarely did they ever hurt. It rarely hurt, and of course, when you do the light, at first it hurts if you're not bleeding heavily, and it's your first time putting it in. It's gonna hurt, and you always do when it has to have the plastic part, and you use the plastic part to push the cotton part in, and you throw away the plastic part. Yeah. Apparently my mom apparently hoarded some or bought really crappy ones that were organic, good for the environment, because it had cardboard around it, which means you can't push it up. It's way harder to push up inside you, and you can't really get the cardboard off. You're supposed to throw away the cardboard, but yeah, it just uncomfortable and it hurts and it's just not good. It's not happy. It hurts a ton and it's painful, and you don't do it. Don't use those. Those are horrible. And then for one ad commercial, there was called one that's like play, and it's a sports kind. Yeah, those are crappy. Those do not help and they do not work like they're supposed to. They're supposed to be like, oh, you can run while they're inside you, and all this crap. Yeah, no, they work less than, I believe, Equate, EQUATE. We get that for like everything. And we have that on tampons, and it works. And then usually, you can't have like those panty liners that are real thin. Where like, or smaller ones. It depends on how heavy you bleed. And I was like, and some people don't bleed enough for them to use. Then they can just get away with just using pads. You don't always need tampons. And then my period is super irregular. And then also with that, every day is a different amount of blood flow. Different amount of blood leaving the body. So sometimes I use light. I almost never used it. I almost always use super, but sometimes I would need to go down and just use a regular. And then I always had a pad, and then a lot of times, in a lot of cases, the supers, I would bleed too much, so the super would completely full, and that would fall out of my body because it was still bleeding. And then I had a full bloody tampon that completely unraveled and was completely full of blood, and that was on a really heavy day. Yeah, that was on the heavier days. So I'd go through, and then you also have to change it every few hours. You gotta put a new one in because you use up the old one. You can't just put one. Yeah, no, you gotta take them out. Gotta go like 3, probably at least 3. Gotta go through at least about 3 of them. About 3 tampons a day for your 5-7 days. Actually, I did 7 days. And then I would randomly, occasionally, just skip 1 month. Only 1 month I wouldn't bleed, wouldn't have a period, and then all the other months I had it, and it was never on the same day. It was never in the same week. It was usually the next month, and then you skip like a week or 2, and you never knew the day. So you were just waiting to die. And then you're like, cramps are supposed to tell you when your period, and like on the day and everything. I'd cramp weeks ahead of time, weeks after, during, after, before, any and all times. I could have cramps and extreme pain. It didn't matter. You're like, you didn't get your period that month? I was still suffering from cramps for over 7 days, for about 2 weeks, even though there was no blood leaving the body. Yeah. But no, I'd have those thick, and you have to get thick pads. You can't have thin pads or medium pads. You have to have it where it's full cotton and it's thick. It's a thick layer. It's about 2. You're like, oh, it's supposed to just be like another. It would only feel like you're wearing an extra pair of underwear, just another layer. No, you need to wear like 2 or 3 layers. It's gotta be thick. It's gotta be about this thick, and then what you're putting into your body, the tampon, is about this thick, and then it expands. So about this, and then if it unravels, it's about this, and it comes out, and then it pops out of my body. So I have this, and I'm still bleeding copious amounts of blood. Just this thing completely unraveled. So when it's completely unraveled, completely stuffed full of blood. It's just cotton. But it's not blood. And then you have this thing, blood. This thing, blood. Welcome to periods. So most people don't have extreme periods, and they do not bleed that much. And some people even like have real little periods, and then a lot of people can just get on, like they can just take, birth control. They can just take birth control and they won't have periods. And I was like, that was not the case for us. Yeah, that didn't happen for our family. I was like, there was only that one type. Okay, I did take birth control. It was a different version. It was Northrone, whatever. Yeah, I took that, and it just made it so I didn't bleed as heavy. So my periods were less. I still had periods, but they weren't as heavy. And now my testosterone level is high in the normal range of a guy, but I'm still have periods. It's the same as if I was taking my Northrone and still getting small periods. I'm just getting what normal girls would get. Just normal amounts of blood, not just losing my body's worth. My body's weight in blood every month for a week. Great. Yeah, it's just great. It's just the process. It's weird. I don't think I bled for 5 days, but apparently I did. Yeah, I just was a little bit, I think I was just confused because it was just really light on quite a few days, and then it was like heavy and normal, and I'd have to wear a pad. Sometimes now I have to wear a pad. I no longer have to use the light tampons or regular tampons or light tampons. I just occasionally need a pad. Usually almost always more than a liner, but yeah. And I always dark colors of underwear. And I refuse to wear women's underwear. I refuse to change just so I can get through the period and wear proper liners and pads and things. Okay, yeah, but that was my main pet peeve. I was like, the play pads and those. We also tried those tampons. I was like, they didn't help. Oh, I can tell you a secret. Okay, something I was super embarrassed about, but now I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, I don't go to school. I don't see these people anymore. I'm not in sports. Okay, so a little bit before, it was my last year of basketball. I got to play a lot more and everything, and I was a lot better. So I was out on the court and I was playing and everything. So I had to play and I had to run and everything. I was doing sports, and you're like, I got my period when I was like 12. I was in 5th grade. I went home for a week and it was hell. That day was hell. I was vomiting. I had diarrhea. I had severe cramps. I was crying my eyes out 24/7. The tears never stopped. They kept leaving my body. My body was betraying me because of how severe the pain was. And you're like, ibuprofen every apparently I've overdosed on ibuprofen for everything. It is nothing for me. Never nothing. It's done nothing. And that's why Max has used out of his CBD oil, because it helps a little bit, and that's it. I was confused and I didn't know that ibuprofen didn't do anything. It didn't help me at all. Nothing. I felt nothing. I took over 6 one time. And was sitting one time, and you're like, you have to wait half hour or something for it to kick in. No. Sometimes it's not always a constant stabbing. You're like, oh, they took the blade out, and now they jab it back into you. That's how it feels. It always felt to me. I was like, your pain is you grabbed a fucking knife and you stabbed me in the goddamn side, and then you pulled it out. So it gave me relief, gave me a breather for a few minutes, and then you stabbed it back in me. And you did that over and over again, and the blood loss, the amount of blood I would lose from you stabbing me in the side over and over again, would equivalent to the pain and the blood I would lose during my period. Yeah. Thanks a lot, buddy, and hormones. Yeah, it's just great. I'm gonna have to complain and deal with this. Need to find a doctor so I can yell at them for all of my problems and be like, fix this. Fix me. Because I still get cramps and I just get some light bleeding periods. And I need doctors to fix it, because you're not supposed to do that when your hormone levels are high and in normal guys' range. You're not supposed to have your period. It doesn't make any sense. No, it doesn't. Okay. Yeah. So that just means my hormone was extremely high. And I'm like, I don't want to have to rip out my... I was like, I would get whatever the hell it's called. It starts with the M. The procedure where you rip out... I would get total... whatever it's called, M. Where you rip out my tubes, you rip out my ovaries, and you... so all the tubes, the ovaries, and the uterus. Rip it all out. Rip it all out. I would totally get that done. But it's like an extra $5,000, and I'm like, I'm already getting rid of my chest, and no one's gonna touch that area, or I'll kill them. So there's no possibility of children anyway. Okay, sorry. No, different topic. Second time. Okay. In my head, I would kill them. I don't know. No one knows. Okay. It would not be consensual if I was pregnant. It would not be consensual. So, I wouldn't have to worry about that. And your fertility is supposed to get down anyway. With the hormones, it's supposed to be harder for you to get pregnant and everything. But I would totally rip it out, but I would have to stay in the hospital for days. Well, no. At the least amount of possibility, you would, even if it's minor, even if they go and if they don't have to even if they don't have to, it would be minor surgery. They would have to, even if they didn't have to cut up in your stomach to remove it, and they just did it, it would be a lot less intrusive and everything, and they wouldn't really have to cut anything, and they would just go in with their tools and everything through your hole, through your vagina. They'd go up and they'd rip out all your organs. They'd just rip it all out. But even if they did it that way and it was less intrusive and everything, you know what happens afterwards? You bleed. You bleed, so you just have another period for like a couple weeks. Am I really? I just need the period to stop. I don't need you to rip out the organs. If there's a way to make the bleeding stop without you ripping out all the organs and making me bleed again, just a little, I just want to stop bleeding. Can we stop the bleeding? Yeah, I just want to stop bleeding all the time. It's great.